Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Nice to see you here today. My name is Jo. So nice to see some of you here today. If you could just let me know who you are, where you are, and if you're studying nursing or medicine. Hi Pratap, hi Pardeep, nice to see you here. Hi Uma. Okay. Okay, great. So some people here from India. Hi, Nico from Kenya. Great. Hi, Martha. Lovely to see you all here. Okay, so today I'm going to answer any questions that you have. So please do write your questions in the comments and I will try and answer the questions. Okay, so we've got people from Vietnam as well, Australia, Nigeria, really lots of people from everywhere. So I'm going to answer any questions that you have. So please do let us know by typing in the chat. Okay, so we've got a few coming through here. I'm just having a read through. Okay, any of the tests, so writing, speaking, etc., etc. All right, so we've got a few questions coming through. So the first one I'm going to answer is from Anam. Hi, Anam. So it's a question about listening A. In listening part A, what's the maximum words we have to write? There's no set maximum, but it won't be any more than 2 or 3 words. Okay, so you wouldn't write any more than that, usually 1 or 2. Okay. Okay, and then we've got a question about speaking. So quite a few questions about speaking, which I think I'll talk about now. So a few things. We've got how to improve speaking, which is very general. Lots of ways that you can improve speaking by practicing. So practicing doing OET role plays. If you can find a study buddy, that would really, really help you. Not just doing OET role plays though, you can also just practice explaining in general. So in the OET exam, there's probably going to be one form of explanation, explain about a condition, explain about some treatment. So you can practice doing this. One resource that I like you to use is the NHS website. So you can go to the website, choose any topic, any condition, for example, diabetes, asthma, or maybe something less common. Have a little look at some of the patient-friendly language on the website because it's designed for patients, and practice explaining in a clear way. Now, there was a specific question about role play from I find it difficult to structure the role play. So this is very, very important. So there's 2 kinds of structure for the OET role play. The first one is the overall structure. So what you can do in the preparation time is think about the flow of the role play. Follow the order of the points, but do be prepared to adapt. Yeah, think about how you might introduce the next topic, whether it be with a question or a signposting phrase. So, would you like me to talk a little bit more about asthma, for example, or I'd like to talk a little bit more about the treatment we're going to try. Okay, so things like that. And then, of course, you need to do thinking about explanations, structure within explanations. So I like to do a 3-point explanation. So the first point is signpost. Let me explain a little bit about diabetes. And then step 2 would be providing the information with a maximum of 3 points. So diabetes is a condition where you don't produce enough of a hormone called insulin. Okay, so you would explain a little bit about that. And then step 3, check. Is that clear? How do you feel about that? Yeah, so it's signpost, explain, and check. And when you're explaining, a maximum of 3 points before you pause, check, you can always go back on. So we call this chunking and checking. It's so that the patient doesn't get overwhelmed with all the information they're being given. Okay, so that's a really good way to structure any explanation or any advice that you're giving in the OET speaking. It works the same for giving advice, yeah? Signpost. Let me give you a little bit of advice on how you could reduce your cholesterol, right? And then you explain. One thing you can do is try and do a little bit more exercise. Another thing you can do is adjust your diet a little bit. And it would be a really good idea if you could reduce your alcohol intake. And then you check. Do you think you could manage that? Okay, I have a question here. What are the best resources for preparing for the OET test? This is something that gets asked to me a lot. For preparing for the OET, you need to use a wide range of resources. One place where you can get official OET resources is the OET website. So they've got lots of videos, practice tests, masterclasses, and things like that available on their website, OET.com. The other place you can prepare is using OET's YouTube channel or our OET YouTube channel. So that's SLC OET. So I really do recommend that you, OET SLC. I do recommend that you go there. And if you've not already found our video tutorial, there's lots and lots on there that can help you. And then there are also lots of resources that aren't OET materials, but they really help develop your skills for OET. So it's about finding a balance of both. You want to improve your knowledge of the exam and the strategies to use for it, but you also want to improve your skills and language ability in order to be able to pass the test. So it's combining those two things together that's really going to help you achieve. And the resources I like to use for developing skills, well, for reading, the conversation.com is a really good resource, got lots of attitude and opinion. You can practice scanning on any text, but you could use the NHS website as well, scan for specific words such as symptoms. For listening, you can, for listening A, you can use the CSA videos on Matthew Smith's YouTube channel, GP Behind Closed Doors, 24 Hours in A&E. And for listening C, you want to listen to longer talks, so such as TED Med Talks, ABC Podcast, BBC Health Podcast, and listen to a variety of accents as well. Okay. So, a question here about reading C. Which is the best strategy to tackle reading part C? Good question, Nico. Reading part C is very challenging. So the first thing to think about is not spending too much time on reading B. So only about 10 minutes on reading B to give you enough time to tackle reading C. So you want at least 30 minutes. So reading C, the first thing you should do is have a quick look at the title and number the paragraphs. Yes, because Each question refers to a paragraph. So you don't want to waste time having to count paragraphs. Where's paragraph 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number the paragraphs so you've got it clear, and then take each question individually. It goes in the order of the text, so you don't need to read the text first and then look at the questions. You can just do it one by one, and that saves time. So I wouldn't recommend reading the text first. First, I would say, look at the question, understand what it's asking you. Yeah. So for example, what is suggested about blah, blah in paragraph 1. Then read paragraph 1, thinking about the question, and break it down into units of meaning. What are the main ideas presented in this paragraph? Then look at the options and eliminate obvious wrong answers so that you're left with perhaps 1 or 2 options to choose from. And then you can refer back to the question, which one is really answering the question? Looking at the paragraph as a whole, remembering that things can be mentioned and then contrasted later on in the paragraph. So I think that's the best strategy for reading C, and then you can move on to the next question. Some people like to read the options before you read the paragraph. Other people don't like to because it becomes very distracting. So I think try both strategies and see which works for you. Okay. Yes, thank you, Ngoc Thai. In Vietnam, you put the conversation.com link on Facebook. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about there. Great. Okay. And then another question here. So the website, I can't post in YouTube, I'm afraid. But it's just theconversation.com. Okay. Okay. Question from Shalom. Hello, Shalom. We've got how to make sure that the answers marked are correct in listening part B and C. Well, you can't guarantee that they're correct. You just have to follow the strategies. So make sure you understand the questions, read the paragraph, understand the paragraph as whole, eliminate the obvious incorrect ones, and then choose the correct answer, referring back to the question if you need to. Okay. Okay, and then we've got a question from Kanku. Hi, Kanku. How do we score above 20 in listening A? We want to maximize the number of points we get in listening A because that will really take the pressure off, and it's worth more than 50% of the marks. So the key to listening A is the pre-listening time. You don't have very long, so you need to make sure that you're using this time effectively. So first of all, as soon as you can, as soon as you're allowed to open the booklet, look at the context. What kind of healthcare professional are you talking to, and what's the topic about? Okay, so you activate your brain automatically. Then what you need to do is read through the notes very quickly, paying attention to the headings and the information already provided, because that's going to help you keep your place. You also need to pay attention to the gaps and think about what kind of word is going there. Now, you don't have time to say, what kind of word goes in this space? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? Maybe it's the name of a medication. You just don't have enough time to do that for every single question. So you need to do this automatically. You go through, okay, patient prescribed medication, and just sort of read through, thinking about the gaps as you're going through. So you really need to practice this and practice speed reading. Okay, you can also underline keywords if that helps. So it's all about using that preparation time. Yeah, so if you have spent the time, you know what you're about to hear and in what order, the chances of you not getting lost and being prepared for the answers to come up are much, much higher. So I think those would be your best strategy for listening A, and of course, just generally improving your listening skills. So listen to a wide variety of resources, different accents. If you are working in an English-speaking environment, in an English-speaking country, this is also a great resource. Just listen around the hospital or clinic where you work to hone your listening skills. Okay, so let's have a little look at another question. We've got a question from Mrs. Everest. So this time about reading A. So, what's the strategies to maximize time in reading A? So, yeah, reading A is not actually difficult, okay? The time is different, yeah? Difficult. So that's what's difficult, the time. You need to make sure that you are maximizing every spare moment so that you can answer reading A well. So you have 15 minutes and 20 questions, which is less than 1 minute per question. So the first thing you need to do is not read the text. So some of you may have heard me say this before. Don't read the text for reading A, which sounds a little bit crazy because it's a reading exam. But I think remember that reading A is not testing your ability to read for detailed information. It's testing your ability to find information fast, just like you would do if you're working in a healthcare environment and you need to find out something about a patient very quickly. Yes. So say you need to find out a particular medication that they're on. You're not going to read the whole of their case notes to find out what medication they're on. You're going to scan very quickly just for medication names, yeah, to do this fast. So it's the same kind of principle that you need to use for reading A. So first thing you do is you have a quick look at the four texts. What kind of information is in each one? Notice if there are any headings. If there's a table, what are the headings of the table? If it's a graph, what are the different axes, the X and the Y, so that you have an idea of roughly what's in each text without reading it in detail. Second thing you would do is complete the matching task first. There are several reasons why this is beneficial to do. The first one would be it's easier. You can just get 7 points really, really, really quickly. If you save it till the end, you might run out of time and then you've lost 7 valuable points. So I recommend do the matching task first. It also will give you an indication as to the kind of information that's presented in each of the text. So it's going to give you more insight and better prepare you for the next set of questions. So do the matching task and do it without looking in the text if you don't need to. You don't actually have to find the answer. You just have to say which text would the answer be in. Yeah, so we would say something like, in which text would you find information about analgesics, for example? And then you go, oh, well, that's text C. Write it down. You don't actually have to find the information. And once you've done the matching task, you then move into the short answer questions and the gap fill sentence completion tasks. Now, the strategies for those in order to maximize time is read the question or sentences and decide what information are you looking for, the answer. Yeah, is it a medication, a body part, I don't know, an adjective, is it an illness, whatever. Yeah, so what kind of word are you looking for? What are the key words in the sentence or question that are going to help you locate the answer? So you'll be scanning for these words or synonyms of these words. And the third thing is, what text is the answer going to be in? So it's, what are you looking for? What words will help you find the answer? Where am I going to look? Then you go and scan the text for the answer, write it down, and move on to the next one. And you've really got to go, 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 go. You don't have any time to waste. So it's really, what am I looking for? What words will help me? Where am I going to look? Go find it. Write the answer, move on to the next one. If you can't find the answer straight away, just move on. You don't want to waste time on a question that you might get the answer incorrect anyway, and maybe you only get up to number 15 and you've missed maybe 4 or 5 easy questions. Okay. Okay. Okay, I've got a question here from our Chana. Hello, ma'am, how to give reassurance to the patient? So I think it really depends what the situation is. So I think several ways you can do this. I think the first thing to do. Let's say, for example, they're very anxious about some test results. So I think in that case, I think the first thing you want to do is find out their specific concerns so that you can perhaps relate your explanations to these concerns and reassure them. So, imagine they're very worried about a test result, or they're worried about having a blood transfusion, or they're worried about a new diagnosis. So you say, oh, could you tell me what you're specifically worried about? And then you could use a bit of empathy. Oh, I completely understand. It's totally normal to feel that way. And then, but let me reassure you that it's a very safe procedure. It's a very common illness, or something like that. So find out their concern, empathize with them, and then reassure them. Okay, so something like that. Okay, so we've got a few questions about OET writing, which I would like to answer here. So the first one is, please explain writing, a very general question. So I'm not sure what everybody knows about the OET, but very briefly, you are given a set of case notes about a patient. You have to write a letter. For nursing, it could be a referral letter, a discharge letter, or a transfer letter. And for medicine, it would be a referral letter, a discharge letter, or an admission letter to the hospital, for example. And you need to write a letter about 180 to 200 words, so about 4 to 5 paragraphs. And you need to select information based on the purpose of the letter. So the purpose of the letter will always, the reason for writing will always be presented in the task at the bottom of the case note. So this is where you go first. Look at the task, any notes at the top, and perhaps the last consultation, or the last date, or the last part of, or the plan, or discharge plan, depending on what it is. So have an idea of why you're writing to the reader. Is it to request ongoing care? Is it to request assessment, or a specific type of assessment, like an endoscopy, or I don't know, something like that, an MRI? So why are you writing? And then go through the case notes during the 5 minutes reading time. So you're not allowed to write during this time. Read through the 5 minutes reading time, through the notes, and thinking about what might be relevant. Then, when the 40 minutes writing time starts, don't just start writing. Pick up your pen, pause, go through the notes again, and annotate. So some ticks, cross out some things which are definitely irrelevant. Make a brief plan, whether this is putting numbers next to information on the case notes, or writing a brief plan. What are you going to include, and in what order? Because if you know what information you're going to include, what order you're going to present it in, then all you need to think about is clear language to express this information. You don't want to be thinking about language and selection of information at the same time. I've taught many people OET, and in practice and in the exam, the ones that aren't successful are the ones that don't plan. They're not planning, they're panicked. They go, oh, I don't have time to plan. Well, you don't have time not to plan. So you really need to think about how you're going to organize the information, because that's going to save you time, actually, rather than create time. So I have another question about writing: how to differentiate hierarchical and chronological pattern in writing. So hi Chalam, I think you're talking about presenting the information in order of importance, or whether you're going to do it chronologically. Well, I think it really depends on what the information is that you're including. So if it's not an urgent case, and it's, perhaps you're asking for further assessment, I don't know if you're studying medicine or nursing, but say, for example, it's a medicine case notes and you need to ask a specialist for further assessment, you're probably and it's not urgent, then I would perhaps use chronological. You talk about the progression of the illness, the current state, and then request the further action. If it's more urgent and it requires urgent assessment or treatment, then you might start with the current situation. This is the patient's current symptoms, and then you can include any relevant background afterwards. So that would be the way to do that. Similarly, if it's nursing, maybe if it's a discharge letter or a transfer letter, I think these kinds of things, you know, if it makes logical sense sometimes to do it chronologically. So you briefly mention the hospital treatment, focus on the current situation and the future plan. So that would make sense to do it chronologically, but it really depends. You have to assess each case note individually. Okay, and a question from Martha. Hi, Martha. In Jo, which date are we supposed to write? Is it the date of the test or the one given in the question? So I believe that when you write, take the writing test in OET, the exam date will be the date written on the set of case notes. Okay, always use the date put on the case notes. It will tell you what date to assume. When you're practicing with the old sample tests, you know, obviously a lot of these are going to be very old dates, so you can just use the date of the last consultation. Okay, but in the actual exam, I believe it will be the same date as the exam. Okay. Okay, and then a question from Mohammed Waris. Hello. A question about reading A. If the question is, what type of pain does he feel? Continue or continuous pain, which one is correct? So for reading part A, you need to write the words that are exactly expressed in reading A. So you copy exactly. So if the text in reading A says continuous pain, write continuous pain. Okay, so make sure you copy the words exactly the same. A great question here from Judith. Hi, Judith. In speaking, is it a must to always ask the patient's name? No, it's not. And you might waste a lot of time to say, oh, what's your name? How may I address you? Could you confirm your date of birth? You can do that, but you don't need to. So I would say there are three options. One, just don't use a name. Two, use my name, Jo. It works for both male and a female, yeah? Or invent a name, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, whatever, yeah? Or three, you can ask the interlocutor in the preparation time, excuse me, may I know your name? Write it down and then use that name. Okay, so I think those are the three options to use for that. And then we have a last question here about the warm-up questions in the OET speaking. So what are the commonly asked warm-up questions? So these are going to be very general questions. And remember, they're not assessed. So these will be questions like about your professional background. So, could you tell me a little bit about your job? Or could you tell me about some recent training that you've done? Or what area of medicine or nursing most interests you? Something like that. It's going to be very simple questions, and it's just designed to relax you, ease you into the speaking, and so you can get used to the interlocutor's voice. So please don't get worried about those. It's not assessed, okay? But you might want to practice. If you look on the OET official YouTube channel, they do actually have there an example of the warm-up section. So go and check that out, and you'll be able to use that. Okay. Okay, Mohammed, I've got your question right. I understand your question a bit better now. If the word pain is already mentioned in the question, do you write pain in the answer for reading A? Well, then the answer would be no. So if the ideas are already expressed in the question, don't repeat them. So if it asks, for example, what's the maximum dose of analgesics to be given? Don't write 10 milligrams maximum, because maximum is already expressed in the questions. Okay. I'll answer one more question because it's time to finish now. But hi, Pardeep. Question about the 3-minute preparation time. How should we manage that? Well, you can ask the interlocutor what their name is. And if you have any questions about what's on the roll card, you can't ask them how to do it, though. So you can then read through the roll card. Notice the setting. Where are you? Are you in a community clinic, in A&E, or is it a home visit? Okay, read the information about the patient. It might give you an indication as to how they're feeling, very anxious, frustrated, worried. Yeah, so you get the information about that. Then read through the tasks, underline the task verbs, and start thinking about what the flow of the conversation will be. You then need to think about how you're going to start the consultation, how you're going to introduce yourself and begin. Yeah, is it how can I help you? Or I've come here today to talk to you about your test results. Okay. And thinking about some useful language that you could use and write down a few notes if you want. So if you always forget about exploring concerns, perhaps write down a question that you might ask them relevant to that context. Okay. And be ready to start the interaction. Okie dokie. So I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but I'll be back next month, the last Wednesday of every month for our live Q&A. So good luck with the rest of your preparation, and I hope to see some of you here again. All right. Have a great afternoon or evening wherever you are, everybody. Take care. Bye.